Welcome to Countdown to Infinity. Brent, were you trying to get my attention?
Yeah, I was doing the Tazon Day warm up.
Yeah.
Lean away from the mic to take a break.
Excuse me. Welcome to Countdown to Infinity, a Marvel's Avengers podcast. We talk all things MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe, and my gosh, after years and years and years of just rewatching a lot of the old MCU stuff and ranking things and picking our favorites, choosing who we think goes away in Infinity War and Endgame, we've had such a constant drip of new MCU stuff to talk about. We're truly in a blessed time. We're talking about Ms.Marvel, the new TV series streaming now on Disney Plus. Only one episode premiered, and that episode is called Generation Y, which introduces us to the main characters. There's a lot of intrigue in this. We learn about Avengers Con, a fun convention, and we get some really unique peeks into the life of I would say like a first of its kind character in the MCU and Marvel in general. We're going to go episode by episode. So this is just on episode 1. Just fair warning, we're going to talk about some spoilery stuff if you haven't seen it before. But my name's Emmanuel.
My name's Brent.
And Brent, you're like the ringer of Countdown to Infinity, which is great.
Yeah, I'm the if anybody knows baseball lingo, I barely know if this is right. I'm the pinch hitter. Get me in there in the 8th inning, and I'll pop in and throw some shitty pitches. And
Brent lands the plane. That's his thing. Like he can land the plane.
I crash land the plane.
Yeah.
To the best of my ability. Yeah.
I mean, if it seems like, we don't really have a monoculture as a society anymore. We don't all watch one thing because this is the 70s and we're not, watching CBS News with Walter Cronkite with our hot toddies and our moms knitting our uniform for tomorrow or whatever. But the MCU is pretty close. Like a lot of people follow this now almost 40. I don't want to even say movie. This like 40 project like storyline, but Ms.Marvel is really exciting because it's more directly connected, I guess, than Moon Knight is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and I've said this when I've popped up in the past on this show on Moon Knight, I think specifically, but we're in an interesting and I think exciting era where I think for a lot of people, and even for Marvel and Disney, Endgame was obviously, it's in the title, is like it's the Endgame, and it's like the end of a chapter, and they are now going to introduce several new either iterations, like you have Captain America, Falcon becoming Captain America. You have the kind of the new blood. You have Hawkeye's. The girl from Hawkeye, what's her
Kate Bishop.
Kate Bishop, that's right. I mean, now you have Kamala Khan, and like so far, I mean, casting wise, the execution of these new characters, I think they're really nailing it, and it's really exciting. I think probably, and you and I talked about this, I think in a text talking about like the box office returns for some of these, movies that have the MCU movies, and it's less than, at least some of the heights that we've seen semi-recently. And I think that Endgame, people probably, dropped off, especially when they see a slate of 4 shows throughout the year on Disney. And I think it can be a little overwhelming. And I think generally the shows have been like good to great to me. Like they've all at least been solid. I mean, I feel like that's the MCU guarantee. It's like, this is going to be, a solid, like well put together thing, well acted. But that has me really excited about Ms.Marvel because, again, not knowing anything about this character, just like Moon Knight, I went in, with no expectations, just like, let's see what this is. And I was kind of blown away by this first episode. I loved it.
Yeah. I mean, we'll talk about overall what we thought about it, but I think you're right. Like, there's a clear difference in And it's not to say like it's a quality thing, but there are some really marked differences between these shows, which I think is really good for Marvel. We don't want normally, or I don't know, maybe people do. We don't want the same thing regurgitated over and over again. And I'll point out who directed this episode specifically, and they also are directing the finale of Ms. Marvel with this really talented duo, Adil and Bilal, and they're a duo of directors that do amazing, really, I would say high concept action movies, including Bad Boys for Life and Gangsta.
Oh,
they have a Batgirl movie coming out later on this year. And if you're really impressed by the scope of Ms. Marvel, because it truly is like some stuff we've never seen before, like cinematically, it's partially, I mean, behind the scenes, this show has a lot of talent behind the camera. It's put together, it's created, and the showrunners Bisha K. Ali, who worked on Loki. But I know like we've got some time to talk about them later on. But Brent, what did you think about this episode, the first episode, your introduction to Ms. Marvel, Kamala Khan, and really Iman Vellani, who plays her?
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I mean, I loved it. I really loved it. I think just right out of the gate, Iman Vellani is such good casting and is such a like, man, I just imagine that like through seeing the returns from the show and like, you know, the episodes come in, that the casting director was like, fuck yes, nailed this. Because she's so good. She's so funny and charismatic and like youthful, and so even just from one episode might be my favorite new like Marvel character. She's so endearing, and I think that like they get so much mileage out of her being such a like fangirl of the Avengers. I think that that's such a, and I really don't know like basically anything of the character in the comics. I think that's the case in the comics. I think she's kind of introduced as kind of this semi kind of postmodern like this. This is the new generation reacting to the old. But I think they have a lot of fun with that, and without even. And I'm sure there are going to be cameos. I haven't heard anything, but I'm sure there are, or small roles or whatever from people we've seen. But even without needing to have those in the first episode, it's all very, very character focused. It's really all about the kind of dynamic between her, her parents and her brother to an extent, and her whole family. I think is great, and their interactions are really wonderful and funny. And she's kind of rebelling from wanting to kind of her parents very much want her to be on this path, and then she very much wants to go on a separate path. And so it's a lot of really great setup, as well as like the origin. I love how that origin scene at Avengers Con goes down. It's really well done and really funny. But yeah, I'm trying to think about what else I really liked about it. She has a guy in the chair, Bruno, who's like
who we don't talk about.
Hey, let's stop right now. I'm not going to say no. But yeah, I like his introduction, and like in their dynamic is really fun. And God, he makes like a damn like home control unit for her dad, and like that's so wild. But it's like, this is the MCU 14 years in. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Well, that reminds me, what I was going to say right before he potted is what's her name? Iman Vellani was 2 years old when Iron Man. Oh my goodness! Out.
Wow.
So, Jesus, we're melting. Time is
that's like
a mirage.
Another level of meta, because this isn't so much like a commentary on the show, but you can look up online her press tours, and she knows so much about Marvel. It's kind of wild. And there's like, this isn't to besmirch her, although, you know, everyone knows I've bought 1,000 of her candles, but Gwyneth Paltrow like doesn't remember scenes she's in those Iron Man movies.
She was in movies. Yeah. She was like, I wasn't in Spider-Man 1, the new one.
What are you talking about?
Favreau was like, yes, I shot scenes with you.
For her, it's all just the first Iron Man, it's all reshoots for the first Iron Man.
Right.
But
right.
for Iman, like, she has this knowledge of her character. She's read the comics. There's kind of this thing with, the origin story in the comic books being a little more mythical, like Inhuman style, and this being a little different because, her arm isn't actually growing large like it does, like a mutant in the comic books.
Oh, right. So yeah.
She's really knowledgeable. I think a perfect person to play the role. But I think I agree with you. She's a great character. I'm such a big fan of just her place in the vastness of the MCU, which is kind of like just a coming of age fan of the Avengers, which truly would be very realistic at the time. If like there are superheroes flying around saving people, they're going to be influenced. She's got like a YouTube show. I think she's got like, I think it's like Sloth something, right? She has
a channel.
She has a channel.
What does she do on the channel? It's like breaking down the Avengers like lore.
She breaks stuff. She like thinks Thor's a gamer. She listened to Ant-Man's podcast, which is super funny.
That's great.
It's like a super lived in world, which I think we really haven't seen too much of. I think we got really close with Falcon Winter Soldier with the Flag Smashers, but it was like on a very political high level.
A different level. Yeah.
And I think this is very close to, I think, what Spider-Man deals with. But of course, he's like dealing with he's like carrying the mantle of the Avengers.
That's an interesting point real quick, because it is almost like, and I really like all three Spider-Man movies. But it is interesting how like the what's the word? Just the huge presence of Tony Stark in those is just like such a heavy burden on all of them. And I like him in those movies, but it's like, to me, that it never really totally worked as like a Spider-Man thing. And I like the first one as like a coming of age thing, but this one really feels like she doesn't have Tony Stark. She doesn't have, hell, like I almost expected Brie Larson, Captain Marvel to show up, and I think she probably will at some point. They feel very linked, but she's obviously a huge fan of hers. But and it doesn't need anything other than the world that the MCU has created to kind of like fill in all the color. And it makes it a really rewarding watch for people who watch all the Marvel stuff.
Yeah, it's like a heavy presence in the whole movie. Kamala she daydreams a lot. We see through some really cool inventive animation how she kind of creates a reality for herself when she wants to kind of drift away. But the Avengers stuff is heavy for her personally, but it's almost like a very recognizable, our overbearing parents won't let us do the thing we want to do, so we gotta sneak out, go to Avengers Con, and things change, hell breaks loose, there's going to be misunderstandings. I think there was a really devastating, and Brent, you're a parent, but that scene for me was like really hardcore between her mom and her dad, Muniba Khan and Yusuf Khan, when they dress, or her dad dresses like the Hulk to join her for Avengers Con, and she totally shuts him down. And that scene was so tough, because maybe it's because we're older, but I was like on the side of the dad. I'm like, come on, this guy like is trying so darn hard.
Yeah, that's not hard to imagine me being on his side, but it's like
you're gonna be on you're gonna wear like a Paw Patrol. You're gonna be chased from Paw Patrol.
Hey, absolutely, it's inevitable. Yeah. But but by the way, his look was incredible. That was that made me just be like, that scene might be my favorite in this episode, because that scene I was like, fuck yes, Marvel, like yes. This is that like human street level, everybody's a normal human person like thing that makes Marvel special. And the movies, while I love pretty much all of them, and they're doing their thing really well, they got away from that. And like that was always Spider-Man's thing. I almost wonder if this show is almost like another not attempt, but like another kind of inspiration of kind of like the Spider-Man like character, because Spider-Man is always, never getting his way, right? Like that is like the crux of what makes Spider-Man a special character. It's like
he's bad at time management and balancing his life.
Exactly. It's like he's Spider-Man. That is a gift, and it's definitely a curse because his normal life is going to suffer a lot. And I feel like they're kind of setting Kamala up for that, which I really like. But that scene, it's so devastating because I was like, Kamala, they're trying. You can go with your dad, and it's going to be fine.
It's not that bad.
Like that's embarrassing as all hell. But like, come on. Look how much
here's what I will say.
Yeah.
When they introduced Avengers Con, I imagined, and you might have too, like a Comic-Con, like a very controlled commercial event, like Comic-Cons across the country and the world.
Yeah.
But this seemed actually like a grunge underground.
It seemed like a zine.
Oh yeah, it's like a pop-up. Yeah, it feels like an off-brand pop-up type of thing to celebrate, I don't know, like aliens and stuff. And I mean, there was pretty broad representation of the fans in the Avengers Con. Like there were some people dressed up as like Guardians characters. And I was like, whoa, y'all have seen them like twice in your world, they're not even.
You gotta imagine if we saw Raccoon in a tree fighting aliens. That Rocket would be my favorite guy.
That's Absolutely. True. I mean, we're still out here with our Harambe, and he's a real superhero.
Rest easy, King.
I don't want to say what happened. I mean, I don't know if kids listen to this pod, but don't Google it, I guess. Don't Google what you're supposed to do. With Harambe. Well, let's talk about, I mean, we're kind of talking a lot about Kamala and Avengers, but we haven't even brought up kind of her awakening. I mean, there's this really cryptic bangle that arrives from a distant family member. Her mom, Kamala's mom, very quickly takes it, hides it upstairs, seemingly like she knows what it is. I don't know if she does or not.
Yeah, I'm a little unclear,
When Kamala puts it on at the Comic-Con for a cosplay competition, she sets off a lot of issues with this power she doesn't even know she can control. She basically has to save people from something she's caused, which is like a fun little, paradox. But, it's kind of like, I would say like plot-wise, a super big question of what's going on. How and for me, like if it's so attached to a MacGuffin like a bangle, then like is that even like your power, or is it just whoever has the bangle?
Yeah, that's interesting too, because I didn't know if that was a comic thing. Is it? Do you know if it's a comic thing?
No, it's inside of her. Like the power is. She's an inhuman. She's not a. She interacts with something. I can look it up to give you like exactly the thing she interacts with, and then it's just like infused in her, like just like a mint and pineapple infused water.
Okay, my favorite.
That sounds good.
Yeah. See, I wonder what more context. We're obviously going to learn a lot more about that. What is it called? A bangle?
I have been seeing bangle. It's not a bracelet.
Okay. I've never heard that. Yeah. Interesting. I've never heard that before. So yeah.
Well, Brent, check out these bangles. I'm just kidding. Can you imagine if my arm
if you just had two sleeves of
I'm gonna look up the difference.
Yeah. Okay, but
bracelets.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think it's very exciting to see those powers come out, and I loved that it was in the cosplay competition, and everybody was like, "Whoa, holy shit!"
Super public, yeah,
like her doing like her 3D. I don't even know what that was. It was like an energy, and that's another thing. Like the overlap between Ms. Marvel and Captain Marvel. How direct is it? I think we're probably going to find out. I wonder if her putting that thing on and her using these powers is going to like. Something's going to ping for Captain Marvel and be like, shit, there's another, and they're on Earth this time because she's obviously fucking off in, Jupiter or whatever. Whatever, some other alien planet.
You were halfway through like a schoolyard rhyme.
I know, yeah, and I tried to do like a Crowns of Jupiter lyric joke, and I was like, nope, that's too much to fucking just come up with right now. Next week, maybe. I think it was really exciting to see her discover her power. She has that really cool. Boy, we got to talk about the direction of this.
Yeah,
but like she like flips through and goes into like the Upside Down to steal from Stranger Things, and it's like there are people there, and they look like energy beings or something. I'm excited to see what's going on with that. But yeah, really executed really well, I think.
I mean, we're just at the beginning of this, but definitely. I mean, there's a lot Brent, did you watch the after credits scene? Oh boy.
Yes. Wait, remind me. I know I did.
It's basically just introducing us to I'm gonna find his name. An actor who's in Succession. But he is in
he's
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, yeah.
It's the Department of Damage Control. And I got the sense that maybe this is kind of what I don't know. Like I have a feeling that Ms. Marvel's quote unquote villain might be something like a government agency, more so
like
than
institutional.
than like a dude that is, let's be honest, CGI running around. But we'll have to see. But it is kind of an interesting thing that we saw this with Shang-Chi, but I mean the 10 rings are kind of like a familial thing for him, passed down for generations. So
yeah,
it's kind of like, off radar in a way, but the idea that like people are getting powers like this, including like really children, like Kamala Khan, and who's kind of policing that, if that's something that should be policed or if she's going to have to figure it out on her own. Like it's pretty exciting, and it's definitely something that we haven't seen yet so far. Apart from, I guess, like Falcon and Winter Soldier, they're all taking they're all roiding up or something,
popping pills and I think that is exciting. I hope that's the case, because so far what the show is establishing is, to me, a pretty refreshing series for Marvel. It feels more grounded, more focused on the humans and stuff like that. And yeah, I really just want to give props to these directors, and because I was even reading today that they had to sell Feige on the concept of doing a very Into the Spider-Verse influenced kind of like 2D animation flowing throughout the episode as like her imagination, essentially, which I think is so cool and so creative. And I just really hope it pushes MCU projects to be more like visually inventive like that, because it really adds so much fun and so much energy to the show, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's also really fun to like kind of see this and know that this is kind of Ms. Marvel's thing, the 2D animation that you're talking about, the fact that she's like a young girl who is, a Pakistani Muslim with, parents, and she's not so much the most popular person in school, but to at some point see her, and this is like definitely cart before the horse, and I mean, we complain about this all the time, but she's going to be in the Marvels movie that Nita Costa is making. Like, she's in that movie, but to have her,
I didn't know that, actually.
Well,
that's awesome.
Sorry, Brent. I mean, it's not to have her energy, and I think like Tiana, one of the characters who gets powers from WandaVision, and then of course Carol Danvers, Brie Larson, they're all going to be together at some point. But to have like a definitive Ms. Marvel style and like vibe is cool, because that's really important
right out of the gate. Out of the gate, it's like, oh, this is a like fully realized character, that I honestly can't wait to see in the future. I think that like her perspective is going to be really, really fun to see. The dynamic with like her and all the old guard, if you will, like if and when she meets Thor, it's just, she's gonna fucking freak out, and it's gonna be so funny.
Yeah, and we're not we're gonna give our final thoughts on this, and then we'll go to plugs. But there's obviously a million things in this episode, and this is probably going to continue to the next one too. I'm talking about some of the 2D stuff, but she's a fan of the Avengers, so there's obviously a ton of stuff all over her walls. There's her YouTube channel. You could pause this at any point and see a million Easter eggs, I'm sure. But yeah, let us know what you think about that. But I guess, Brent, I'll talk about my final thoughts on this first episode. I'm really excited about it. It's fun. It's refreshing. It looks different. we have, a family dynamics mixed with religion, mixed with, kind of this fully realized world after the blip that has Avengers and people like that. And, a lot of that same kind of teenage angst stuff, the stuff that everyone wants to grow out of when they're her age. And I'm really excited about Bruno and the Department of Damage Control and trying to figure out where Kamala fits. And Bruno's like the bestest friend ever. This is like consistent with his character in the comic books. He knows all of Kamala Khan's secrets and never divulges them. It's just an incredibly supportive friend. It's kind of weird because I was watching it and I was like telling Sophia, like, man, he's gonna be bad just because we don't trust people anymore. I don't think he will. It would be totally against his character, but it just makes you think, like, man, have we just been so jaded by like,
is our society
by
bad?
friends? Yeah, they were like, friend's gonna totally stab me in the back. I'm just waiting for that to happen. It's gonna happen today.
Keep one eye open.
All right, what do you think about this? This app?
Man, I really loved it. I like I said, I had zero expectations just because I know nothing about the character. But I really, really love how it started. I just think that like the core family, in terms of performances and their dynamic is just the shit that I'm like, yes, Marvel, do more stuff like this. We know how big you can go. And listen, we eat it up. We love it. But show us honestly how small you can go, how like personal and like in specific you can go, because I just think that makes for more rewarding experiences overall and more connection to a character, and I just think it's a really exciting start for the character. And God, what else was I gonna say? I thought I had another point when you were talking and I lost it, but I'm excited to see where the show goes. Is it 6 episodes?
It's 6 episodes. Yeah.
Okay. Nice. But yeah, I think it's a new perspective that we haven't really seen in the MCU movies as much, which is like a very grounded human character on like street level who's dealing with human, like everyday stuff, which I just think we need more of that in the MCU. And I hope it stays relatively in that zone, even though now she has superpowers and the world's going to open up in a big way. But I'm loving it. I love this first episode.
We'll talk about it more later on. But yeah, you're right. She's got a legit secret identity, like a legit one. Not so much.
That's not common at all for MCU.
MCU. And she's got like a family, which again is not that common, like kind of a functioning family that is
like a mom and dad, and she's young and she lives at home still, which is
like she's a child, but like there's nothing like crazy about her family, at least so far that we've learned. Like one of them isn't an alien or something. Like I don't know, maybe that happens, but it's like
maybe mom's a Skrull. Who
seems
knows?
like a human family to me. I don't know, but I love it. I love everything. But cool, we've come to the end of this pod. Of course, let us know what you thought about this show. Brent, what do you have to plug?
First, just check out all the Delphin Pod Patreon stuff. Emmanuel and I are always recording, cool extra, top fives. We're big award season nerds, so we, did Oscar stuff. We'll, keep doing Oscar stuff in the future, and Screen Slush, which has been a lot of fun talking, modern movies, shows, old shows and movies we're watching. A fun kind of weekly check-in, I think. So go check that out. And then my other podcast, Director Showdown, got a whole bunch of episodes out there. So check that out too.
Sweet. Yeah, definitely go to Patreon. Thanks so much for listening. You will hear us. Yeah, hear us, right? You'll hear us next week for episode 2 of Ms.Marvel. Bye, everyone.